Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Super Naruto was husband of FemKyuubi, Hinata, Anko, Kurenai Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Outskirts of Konoha. Naruto was running for dear life. Why he did not know, he just knew that if he were to be caught the chances of him living past this night would be unlikely. For behind him was a mob of villagers chasing behind him. Most of the villagers were civilians, but scattered throughout the mob you could find some Chunin and Junin ninjas yelling out obscenities along with the others while chasing after the young Naruto. Huff huff, why are they chasing me? Sure, they usually glare at me or try to avoid me while whispering vile words under their breaths, but they've never tried to harm me, so why now? Though the panicking blonde. Now that they've finally chased the demon boy out of the village, most of the villagers started heading back, thinking they've done a job well done with chasing him out while hoping he doesn't return. Now with most of the villagers heading back, there were only a few still chasing about him, either being some rage-induced ninja hoping to end the existence of the demon that stole their loved ones from them, or some hopeful Chunin chasing after him hoping to gain some recognition by killing the vile demon and becoming a hero to the village. Finally the kunai and shuriken start to fly, while most of them missing because of the dense foliage of trees that surround the village, but a lucky shot or two created some scratches on Naruto or impaled somewhere on his body. Gah! Why are you trying to kill me? We're both villagers of the same village, so why are you trying to kill me? Screamed out the crying young blonde from the pain of the wounds he had to endure just now. Ha! Like you can be called a villager, you're just a demon brat who should have been dealt with a long time ago. Well, now I think it's time we made up for the mistake of letting you live. Law or no law, you will die today, yelled one of the Junin from the group chasing after him. The only reason they probably haven't caught up to him is that most of them smell like alcohol, probably explaining the new turn of events for our young protagonist. All of a sudden Naruto noticed the flowing river ahead of him. Damn it, it's too wide to jump over and it's flowing too fast to try to cross, thought the fearful blonde. Ha! We've got you cornered now, demon, so give up and maybe we'll try to make this as painless as possible, commented one of the acing ninja, while all of them either had smirks on their face or a demented grin, knowing that the end of the chase was upon them and the vile demon would be dead soon. Naruto finally reached the river and was looking on with panic, with any way to cross before the group could catch up. One of the ninja then pulled a Fuma shuriken off of his back and pulled back his arm before throwing it right at Naruto. With his back turned to the group while looking for a way to escape, he did not see the spiraling weapon heading straight for his back. Thud! And with that, Naruto's eyes widened at the sudden contact the shuriken had with his back before turning his head around to see it sticking out of his back. Naruto then started to collapse towards the river and finally falling into the river, being swept away from the mob of ninjas with the weapon still sticking out of his back, with his body lying limp at the mercy of the current. The group cheered. Finally, the accursed demon is dead and they are now freed from having to watch the demon as he walked down the roads without a care in the world or spouting off how he would become Hokage wh. It to them was the worst of sins, imaging him corrupting their village with his demon self. Turning around, the group headed back to the village, hoping to bring forth the good news to the rest of the village that they would no longer have to fear for their families with the demon brat now dead and Yondaime avenged. Hokage's office. Hiruzen Sarutobi was current facing his long-time worst enemy while sitting behind his desk inside his office, that enemy being the one every Kage must face, paperwork. Sigh. When will I ever be free from this accursed paperwork? Maybe I should go visit Naruto, that'll give me a little reprieve while allowing me to see how the young boy is doing, though the Hokage with a smile on his face. When all of a sudden the doors to his office burst open with a bang, Hiruzen was about to shout at the one who would so rudely enter his office before seeing a wide-eyed and panicking Kakashi standing in the open doorway. The anger he felt moments ago went away just as quickly as they arrived after seeing how Kakashi was acting. Kakashi was usually a calm and lazy Junin who had a habit of being late by hours, but he would never be seen panicking as he was now. Kakashi, what's the matter? asked a concerned Hiruzen. It's Naruto, sir. Some ninja just arrived saying how they chased the demon brat outside the village and finally ridded the village of the demon, said a still panicking Kakashi. After hearing what the ninja said, he immediately confronted the said ninja demanding answers for what they were saying. They proudly told him how they chased the demon outside of the village before cornering him at a river before one of them impaled him through the back with a Fuma shuriken before his body was swept away by the river they cornered him at. All the while one of the ninja was looking extremely proud at the mention of how the shuriken had killed the demon brat, allowing Kakashi to figure out who was responsible for the death of his sensei's son, Chidori, and with that the culprit for Naruto's death was now dead at his feet with a smoking hole where his heart should have been. Before any of the other ninja could come out of the shock that all of them fell into after seeing the hero for the demon brat's death being brutally murdered right in front of them, Kakashi was already gone, heading straight for the Hokage tower. He couldn't believe that Naruto was dead, so he decided to go see the Hokage to gather some Anbu and Junin to go search for the young blonde. To say Hiruzen was shocked was an understatement. He was at a loss of words before snapping out of it. Anbu, said Hiruzen before a group of Anbu appeared before the god of shinobi. Half of you follow Kakashi to where the ninja said they cornered Naruto, the other half of you bring me the ones T claimed to be the ones responsible for his death. With that all the Anbu and Kakashi vanished from his office. Please no, please don't let Naruto be dead, were the thoughts of the Sandaime as he sat back in his chair, a horror-struck look stuck on his face. He quickly wiped the look of his face as a second later the Anbu returned with the ones guilty for his surrogate's grandson's death if what they said is true. The group of ninja were about to complain at how they were being treated after saving the village from the demon brat before they all shran back from the killing intent that was being unleashed by the aged Hokage. Tell me exactly what happened and what made you decide to chase after and kill a citizen of this village, demanded the Hokage with his killing intent still flooding the room, even starting to make the Anbu start to sweat even though the key wasn't being directed at them. Well, Surus and a group of civilians were chasing after the demon bra. Before he could even finish the word, his head had already been decapitated from his shoulders, with the Hokage now standing next to the headless corpse with a bloody kunai in his hand. I believe there is still a law stating that the mention of said topic will lead to death, glared the Hokage, giving the rest of the ninjas in the room a look that said if they should even think the word demon brat they would lose their lives. Now will someone else tell me what it is I wish to know, stated the Hokage while reeling in some of the killing intent that he released when he decapitated the ninja a few seconds ago, allowing the ninja to regain the ability to breathe which they had lost after the pure amount of fear they felt under all the ki the Sandaime was releasing. With a deep breath another ninja started to pick up where the other left off without mentioning the taboo word, like he was saying us, and so some civilians we were chasing afff tear Naruto the ev everybody but us headed back to the village. While we continued to ch chase him before cornering him at a river before one of us th threw a Fuma shuriken at his back which then impaled him and sent him into the river before he was washed away with the shuriken still stuck in his back. Quote. Throughout the story Hiruzen was glaring at the group of ninjas until near the end he had to control himself to near godlike levels to stop himself from ripping the heads off of every one of the ninjas before him. Get them out. The ninja were starting to feel hopeful until he continued with what he was saying. Send them to the prisons until tomorrow for when they will be publicly executed for murder of a fellow Konoha citizen. Quote. With that the ninjas were dragged out of the Hokage's office by the Anbu towards the prison where they would spend their last night among the living. When everyone but the Hokage was out of the room, Kakashi reappeared in front of Hiruzen's desk. Hiruzen had a small ember of hope that he found Naruto wounded but alive to where he could be saved, but the hope flickered away after seeing Kakashi's face. I'm sorry, but we couldn't find his body. We did find the river and a spot of blood where Naruto must have been standing when he was hit, but he couldn't find anything else, Kakashi stated with a defeated look and voice. I see, please leave, I need to be alone. Hiruzen stated, getting an understanding nod from Kakashi, who like he also wished to be alone to face the facts that Naruto was gone and most likely dead. That night Kakashi drank himself to sleep just like he did after the deaths of his team and the death of his sensei. Hiruzen, now being alone in his office, brought out a bottle of sake and a cup before filling said cup to begin to try to drink away the bottomless amount of despair he was feeling. HT now. With a look towards a picture of the Yondaime Hokage, Hiruzen allowed a tear to escape. Tears that had not seen the light of day in many years since he was a ninja had finally been released after seeing the picture of Naruto's father, which seemed to be looking back at him. "I'm sorry, I've failed you, Minato," Hiruzen whispered before the despair engulfed him that had been building up at the news of Naruto's death. Uncown area. Naruto was sinking with water all around him, with his eyes closed, going head first towards wherever the water was taking him. His body then begun to even out, with his eyes starting to open, only for him to continue flipping until he landed on his feet. He seemed to find himself landing on a solid surface still underwater with nothing else in sight. He started to look around only to find himself alone with darkness surrounding him. He took a step forward only for light to shine through where to tried to step on, only for him to pull his foot back and set it to where it was before. The light started to widen, with the darkness on the ground moving, only for what he thought to be darkness appeared to be doves flying away from where they once were. Looking around, he saw doves all around him rising from the ground, all flying up to who knows where. When Naruto took another look around, with all the doves now gone, he found himself standing on a circular platform depicted of a beautiful woman with dark hair held by a red hair band while wearing a yellow, white and blue dress while holding a red apple in her hand. Surrounding the woman were the faces of 7 weird-looking men. Then words appeared in his mind. "So much to do. So little time. Take your time. Don't be afraid. The door is still shut. Now, step forward. Can you do it?" Naruto started to walk forward as if answering the question that the words asked him. Once he reached near the middle of the platform, he started to slow himself down while looking around him. Until he finally stopped in the middle of the platform, still looking around. To his left a podium appeared with a black shield with a red border and 3 red circles, one big one in the middle while 2 small ones connect to the top left and right of the bigger circle. "Power sleeps within you." To his right another podium appeared with a small stick with the same 3 circles connected to the stick, but this time blue. "If you give it form." In front of him a third and last podium appeared with a sword with a white blade, a yellow guard with a red gem in the middle. With a blue hilt, and on the gem were the 3 circles again, but this time black. "It will give you strength. Choose well." Naruto went first to the sword. When he picked it up, the words again appeared in his head. "The power of the warrior. Invincible courage. A sword of terrible destruction." Naruto then went over to the shield and picked it up, and like with the sword the words appeared again. "The power of the guardian. Kindness to aid friends. A shield to repel all." Finally he went over to the weird stick and picked it up. The words like the other 2 appeared again in his head. "The power of the mystic. Inner strength. A staff of wonder and ruin." After looking at all 3 of the objects upon the podiums, he headed back over to the sword and picked it up. The words again appeared. "Is this the power you seek?" Deciding that it was indeed the power he wanted, so that he would never be filled with fear of death from being chased, and instead having the power to fight back. The words appeared again as if in response to his choice. "Your path is set. Now, what will you give up in exchange?" Now Naruto looked at the other 2, trying to figure out which of the 2 to give up before a sad look crossed his face. He headed over to the shield and decided that is the thing he wished to give up. For why would he have need of the shield if there was nothing or no one to protect, while in the village no one wished to be close to him except a select few, but besides them the rest avoided him like the plague and gla. Read at him. He had no one for him to call precious to him except maybe the Hokage and maybe some people he would hang out with while in the village, but now that he's no longer in the village there wouldn't be a way for him to protect them anyway. Once he again picked up the shield, the words appeared. "You give up this power." Stealing his resolve, he decided that this was the power that was not meant for him and gave it up. With the shield gone, he felt a part of him die off, for now he truly felt alone. As if to prove him wrong, the words again appeared. You've chosen the power of the warrior. You've given up the power of the guardian. Is this the form you choose? The question seemed to be as if to give him another chance to choose another path, but with his resolve set, he decided that this would be the path he would follow. The podiums then begun to sink back into the ground from whence they came. The floor begun to shatter, and with the floor now gone, he begun to fall into the black abyss beneath him. He kept falling and falling with no bottom, seeming to come to end his free fall. Then suddenly behind him he spots another platform before him with a depiction of another woman, this time in a pale blue and purple dress that looked almost pure white. His free fall begun to slow down before he landed safely on his feet without any harm coming to his being, showing no signs of how fast he was falling moments before, which surely would have ended in his death. The sword appeared in his hand with a flash of light, and not a second later the words filled his head again. You've gained the power to fight. Naruto took a test swing with the sword he had chosen. After he regained himself from his swing, the words reappeared. All right. You've got it. Use this power to protect yourself and others. A shadow then appeared on the floor with the words still appearing in his head. There will be times you have to fight. The shadow then rose out of the ground as a small humanoid being with two antennas on its head with pure yellow eyes in a hunched over position. Then a second shadow appeared before him next to the first one, beginning to rise out of the ground just like the first one. Keep your light burning strong. More and more of the weird monsters began to appear. Naruto then readied himself for the fight to come. The first monster closest to him leapt to attack him, but Naruto leapt and charged straight at the monster, taking a swing at the monster. Performing a combo starting off with an upward swing followed by a downward one, he knocked the monster back to the ground. He then begun to circle around the monsters, trying to gather them into one spot while dodging their swipes from their claws. He then begun to perform horizontal swings that would hit multiple monsters from just a single swing, which allowed him to hit all the monsters that he had haired into the spot in front of him. After performing a spinning horizontal swing that took out multiple monsters, the rest started to back up. They then sunk back into the floor and disappearing from sight. Behind him a single one of the monsters appeared, as if to secretly dispatch the one it sees as its enemy. Fortunately, the words appeared again to warn him. Behind you. Naruto proceeded to turn around to confront the monster that wished to seek harm to him from behind. Once the monster was spotted, more started to appear, as if knowing that the plan had failed and wished to overcome him through numbers. Naruto then faced the one closest to him and thrust his sword out in a straight jab before following up with a vertical slash downward, then using the momentum from he spun around, slashing the monster in a backhanded horizontal slash, dispatching the foe. He then dispatched the other foes in a similar fashion with seemingly successful results, proving that his method of fighting was working. The way he was fighting with a weapon that he had never used before would amaze anyone who would have seen him at how freely he seemed to be using the weapon, allowing attack to flow into the follow-up attack, seemingly to never end, as if fighting like a master, be it ground or aerial combat. The monsters may have been easy to dispatch with limited number of attacks, but they were hard to catch since it seemed they could sink back into the ground and move around, making it impossible for him to hit them until they rose back from the go-round. Just as sudden as they came, they sunk back into the ground, covering to floor in darkness until every spot on the floor was nothing but darkness, which then proceeded to drag him down. He tried to struggle to free himself, but nothing seemed to work until finally he sunk straight down through the floor. Now he was entirely surrounded by darkness, which he tried to fight off, trying to free himself with no avail. Then, as if he wished it to, all the darkness faded away for him to find himself laying down on another platform, this time depicting a heart. When he finally reoriented himself, got back up on his feet to find a door on the other side of the platform with a light shining down upon the door, he headed towards the door and tried to open it, but to no avail. Then behind him another light shined down on the other side of the platform, and with a flash of light an intricately designed chest appeared. He opened the chest, but only to find it empty. With another flash of light, a crate appeared in the middle of the platform. He then broke open the crate to find some type of weird green liquid in a glass. Part of the door shined and became more solid from its seemingly transparent look. In another flash off to his right, a barrel appeared. Breaking the barrel like he broke the crate, the rest of the door became solid. With the door now solid, he then proceeded to open the previously inaccessible door. He then took a step back as the door started to open in front of him, only for light to start shining through the opening door. Shielding his eyes, he walked towards the light and through the door to find himself in the academy back in Konoha with 3 people in the classroom. First there was Iruka, his sensei and surrogate older brother who always seemed to look out for him. Iruka then asked him a question: "What's most important to you?" To Naruto there seemed to be 3 answers that came to mind, being number 1, friendship, and his prized possessions. After carefully thinking over the 3 answers, he finally decided on friendship because even though there were not many who wished to be his friend, he decided that the small amount that were his friends were most important to him. Is friendship such a big deal? Iruka questioned him. He then walked over to the second person who happened to be his surrogate grandfather, Hiruzen. Hiruzen then proceeded to ask him, "What do you want out of life?" Again to Naruto 3 things came to mind: to see rare sights, to broaden his horizons, or to be strong. Again, after much thought, he decided upon being strong for the same reasons he chose the sword, which seemed like ages ago instead happened to be just moments ago. To be strong, huh? Questioned Hiruzen. Finally Naruto went to the third person, to which his surprise was a classmate of his whose name was Hinata. What surprised him though was that unlike the other 2 which he knew very well, he had barely hung out with Hinata. Like the other 2, Hinata asked him a question: "What are you afraid of?" To him, like the last 2, 3 answers immediately came to mind: being different, being indecisive, and being alone. Single quote. Unlike the other 2 though, he was immediately able to figure out which of the 3 he was truly afraid of without having to think about it. The one which scared him the most was being alone, to have no one to care for or have no one to care about him. To be truly alone was what he was afraid of. Being alone, is that really so scary? Hinata questioned his response like the other 2. Once he was done answering all 3 of the people before him, the words appeared again. You want friendship. You want to be strong. You're afraid of being alone. Your adventure begins at dawn. As long as the sun is shining, your journey should be a pleasant one. Then everything turned to light, blinding his eyes before he found himself on another platform. This time the platform had another beautiful man in a purple dress with long blonde hair while holding a rose in both hands up to her chest. All around her she was surrounded by thorns. Naruto started to walk to the other side of the platform, until he reached the head of the woman on the platform. Behind him the monster's form before started to appear again. He pulled out his sword, preparing for combat again. Before he knew it, the monsters arose from the ground in a circle around him, making him completely surrounded. He charged at the first one in front of him, taking it out with a thrust and 2 horizontal slashes before turning around with a backhanded slash, pushing back one that was trying to sneak upon him. With the monster's guard down, he charged with an overhead chop, dispatching it like so many before it. With 2 down, he had 4 more before him to take out. He then leapt at one of the shadows before him, coming down with a powerful downward thrust strong enough to take the foe out with 1 hit. With himself crouched towards the ground, he then performed an upward thrust on the one beside him, knocking it up towards the air, where he soon followed it, performing to quick slash, dispatching it before nimbly landing on his feet, his eyes already focused on his next enemy. He then performed 2 powerful slashes horizontally, the first one knocking their guard away by countering the swipes they tried to perform on him, before following up with a second one, taking them both out with a single swipe now that their guard was gone. Once all the monsters were defeated, a ray of light shined down, creating a small circle of light upon the platform. He walked over to the circle of light until he was standing directly on top of it, and now that he was close enough to see, he saw that the light was in fact a pale green color. The circle of light under him started to move to the other side of the platform where smaller square multicolored platforms appear looking as if they were made out of glass. Platform after platform appeared at a fast rate, creating a path for him that led to what seemed to be another platform like the one he was standing upon. He then walked upon the seemingly fragile path until he reached the other platform. Once he reached the platform, he saw that this platform, like the others, depicted a beautiful woman in a pure yellow dress. While walking forward, the words again appeared in his head. The closer you get to the light, the greater your shadow becomes. Turning his head, he saw his own shadow extended behind him. His shadow then, like the monsters from before, began to rise from the floor. Shocked, he took a step back from his shadow, which continues to rise from the ground, growing bigger and bigger. But don't be afraid. The shadow started to take on a monstrous form, look nothing like him now, and it took a step as its body became more defined. And don't forget, its face, now fully developed, was pitch black with yellow eyes with long hair like tentacles moving all around its head, while the lower part of its mouth was covered by what seemed to be a scarf as black as the rest of its body. Naruto then began to run away from the abomination, only to come to a stop at the far edge of the platform, almost falling off, only to see a pitch black abyss that seemed to never end. Turning around, he sees the monster rising from a hunched over position, rising until it was standing straight and tall. Its upper body had a large hole which looked to be shaped as a heart. On its back were small like wings made out of the same black inky substance as the rest of its body. Readying his sword, he prepared for a fight that would be unlike the rest from the look of things. He first charged at the monster, then jumped up and performed an overhead slash at the monster's left hand, doing seemingly no damage. Trying to follow up with an upward swipe, the monster moves its hand out of the way while charging up a dark ball in its right hand before pulling his right arm back. The end proceeded to smash it into the ground. Where his hand hit the ground started to become dark in an inky black color. Taking the moment that the monster's hand was in reach, he charged the monster's right hand and performed a downward slash followed up by a straight thrust, which was finished by a SPNNING back-handed slash. Once he finished up the 3-hit combo, the smaller monsters started to appear again from the black hole that the giant created. Naruto then started to perform wide horizontal slashes so he could hit both the giants and while destroying the smaller monsters. Once the smaller ones were all gone, he started to completely focus upon the giant's hand again. The monster then stood back up while more of the smaller monsters seemed to fall from the sky. Naruto then started to dispatch the smaller ones while the giant seemed to be out of reach for him to do any damage. The monster then knelt down, allowing Naruto access to the monster's hands again, but it seemed from the heart-shaped hole an orb of darkness appeared, which then proceeded to shoot out phantasm-like beings that would then ram into Naruto while he was attacking the monster. It seemed though that all the damage that Naruto was dealing out to the monster was adding up, though, as the monster seemed like it was about to be defeated. Like as if he had foreseen the future, the damage had finally been too much for the monster. So in a last-ditch effort, the monster tried to take a swipe at Naruto, which he successfully dodged, but not without losing his balance. Falling on his backside, Naruto could only watch as his sword disappeared and the monster was standing before him in all its might, about to deliver what seemed to be the end. Underneath Naruto, a small circle of darkness appeared beneath him without him noticing, and the words appeared yet again. But don't be afraid. The darkness started to rise up and engulf him while the words continued on. You hold the mightiest weapon of all. Naruto tried to fight the darkness, but like before, it seemed to have no effect as it continued to engulf him, all the while the giant just watched, and finally his whole body was engulfed in the darkness as he lost consciousness. Location unknown, when Naruto first found himself on the first platform. Next to Naruto's body, which had been washed up back on land with the Fuma shuriken still sticking out of his body, a portal of darkness appeared, and out of the portal a man whose entire body was covered by a black cloak stepped out. Organization 13 cloak. I wonder what world this is. It surely isn't one I've been to before, the man stated to himself while looking around trying to figure out where he has ended up at. He then heard a moan of what sounded to be of a person in pain coming from below him. Looking down, his eyes widened at what he saw, for below him was a young-looking boy with blonde hair in a orange jumpsuit laying face down on the dirt, completely drenched, with a giant shuriken sticking out of his back. The man quickly knelt down to see if he could help the kid at all, but while kneeling down he felt a presence of a Keyblade bear near him. Looking around him, he tried to catch sight of anyone near, but after failing to see anyone he looked back down at the boy. It can't be, can it? The man mumbled to himself. He placed a hand on the boy's back with using his other hand to grab the giant shuriken, and with one quick jerk and pulled it right out of the boy's back. Checking for a pulse, he concluded that the boy was indeed still alive in what seemed to be a fatal blow. He flipped the boy over while pulling his hood off to get a better look at the boy. The person under the hood had long, messy silver hair with a black blinder covering his eyes. Quickly pulling the blinder up for a fraction of a second to get a look at the boy, he then pulled the blinder back over his eyes while standing back up with the boy in his arms. Well, it seems like wherever I seems like I was meant to be here if the boy has a Keyblade, he stated before walking off to the nearest settlement. What he didn't notice though was that the whiskered boy's back started to heal. Naruto groggily opened his eyes, trying to blink away sleep from his eyes. Looking around, he found himself in a small room with himself lying on a bed. Pulling the sheets off, he found himself shirtless with a bandage wrapped around his midsection. With the sight of the bandages, the memories from before he fell unconscious entered his mind. Eyes widening in fear, he looked around for any signs of danger or ninjas that have come to try to hurt him. Seeing no signs of danger, he allows himself to relax before turning his thoughts onto the weird dream he had. Was it even a dream? It felt so real, and I could have sworn I felt pain when getting hit by those monster-looking things. I mean, where would I even be able to imagine all that stuff from? He thought, checking his body for any bruises in places he was hit during the dream, only to find no signs of any bruises. Either it really was a dream or I've been out of it long enough for the bruises to heal, he concluded after seeing the lack of bruises. He then swung his legs over the edge of the bed and started to try to stand up, emphasis on the try, as his legs were wobbly, making it hard for him to keep his balance. After a few seconds of trying to fight over control for his seemingly useless legs, which he ended up losing as he fell backwards onto the bed. Sigh. Well, I guess I just gotta either wait for my legs to regain feeling or hope somebody comes to check on me, he mumbled to himself, trying to figure out what to do. After a few minutes of waiting, the door to the room started to open, and though the door came a person entirely covered in a black cloak. "Ah, I see you're awake. Tell me, how do you feel?" the man questioned. After a few seconds, to which Naruto decided the man wasn't hostile, he then answered, "I feel fine, except I can't really seem to stand at the moment." The man nodded in understanding. "I'm surprised you're awake, let alone able to move as you can now, after seeing a giant shuriken sticking out of your back, to which should have been fatal," then cloaked figure commented. Rubbing the back of his neck, Naruto started to explain, "Well, I've always been a fast healer, so that probably explains why I'm healthy like I am now." The man seemed to be interested in the boy's seemingly incredible healing capabilities, but decided to set it off to the side for the moment to ask an even more important question. "So, how exactly did you come to have a giant shuriken sticking out of your back?" Naruto seemed to be hesitant on answering the question, which the stranger seemed to pick up on when he commented, "You don't have to tell me, but it would be helpful to know why I ended up saving a boy from what seemed to be attempted murder." Naruto's head shot up at the mention of the man being his savior. With a sigh, he prepared himself to explain what had led him into his current predicament. "I was running from some shinobi from my village who then cornered me near a river. One of the ninjas from the group then threw and impaled me with the Fuma shuriken, and with both the momentum of the throw and my loss of feeling in my body, I collapsed forward to be swept away by the river." Quote. The man seemed to think over what the boy had told him, which also seemed to explain why the boy was near a river while completely drenched. With a nod, he then moved on to the next topic of interest. "Tell me, do you know what a Keyblade is?" The only answer he got though was a confused look, which was enough to tell the man that the boy had never even heard of the word, much less know what it is. I'm sure I feel the presence of a Keyblade radiating from him, but it seems he has yet to summon it, the stranger thought. What's your name? He questioned after figuring out he still didn't know the boy's name. Hey, isn't it polite to give your own name before asking for someone else's, and besides, what's with the hood? I can't even see your face, Naruto commented in return. With a smirk, the man then proceeded to lower his hood, allowing the boy to see his face, Riku. All he got in return was a confused glance. My name, was his only answer to the boy. It seemed the boy finally understood what he meant, if the look of understanding was anything to go by. Naruto, the boy smirked back. My name, the boy responded back as if taking a jab at how Riku presented his own name. Can you stand yet? Riku asked the boy. Gimme a sec, let me try again, was his answer when he again tried to stand again, this time having more success than the last try. Finally on his feet with a few mishaps, he grinned at Riku, allowing him to see a bit of his personality, as in his stubborn personality. With a nod, Riku turned around. Follow me, was the only thing he said before walking out of the room. Naruto, not wanting to be left behind, exited the room to follow after Riku. After following Riku out of the house and into the yard in front of the seemingly abandoned house, Riku then turned around to again face Naruto. I asked you before if you knew what a Keyblade was, though from your expression, I could conclude that you don't, so I will now tell you. Not that I'm complaining, but why do I have to know what a Keyblade is? Naruto questioned in confusion at the still unfamiliar word. The reason you need to know what a Keyblade is because I can sense the presence of a Keyblade radiating from you, was Riku's reply, earning himself a shocked look from Naruto. Wait, how do I have this Keyblade thing if I don't even know what it is? He asked him with the look of shock still on his face after learning that he may have acquired something he didn't even know about. The Keyblade isn't really something you just pick up off the ground, Riku commented to the boy's question. No, the Keyblade is a power that is awakened in a select few. Currently I know of 2 people besides myself who can wield the Keyblade. Riku's thoughts strayed to the image of his friend Sora and the King Mickey, but then another person came to mind, the boy named Roxas, but he decided not to include him because the boy was basically able to use his power because he was Sora's nobody. A power that's awakened, what does he mean by that? Though Naruto before his dream from before came to mind, could that have anything to do with the Keyblade Riku kept mentioning? Hey Riku, how does a person go about awakening their Keyblade? Naruto questioned, trying to see if he indeed did awake to some mysterious power from the realistic dream he had. Well, most people awaken the power of the Keyblade when they are presented with a difficult journey presented before them, Riku answered, trying to gather his thoughts to figure out how to explain this to him. Does a dream have anything to do with awakening the Keyblade? Naruto hesitantly asked, hoping not to make a fool of himself. Riku's head then snapped, facing Naruto while looking him in the eyes to see if he was really telling the truth. Seeing no hints of him lying, he then answered, yes, sometimes. The power can be awakened in what seems to be a dream where the Keyblade wielder must make choices that could greatly affect the wielder. Hey, sounds like the dream I had, choices and all, Naruto muttered, now learning the truth of the dream. So I guess I really do have a Keyblade, but how do I use it? He questioned after coming to terms with him now wielding some mysterious power. Riku tried to think it over on how to summon the Keyblade, because now to him it's become second nature to the point he doesn't really even have to think abo. It, I guess you could try thinking about something important to you and wanting the power to protect that which is important to you, then focus all those thoughts and emotions and try to summon the strength that will allow you to achieve it. Quote. Naruto then closed his eyes and thoughts of what was truly precious to him. Then several faces appeared, including Hokage Jiji, Teuchi, Ayame, and Iruka. Now with those people in his thoughts, he tried to bring up a feeling of wanting to protect them which flared as if waiting for him to call upon it. Now trying to bring forth the strength to protect them, he focuses the power and strength he feels into his hand, and with a flash of light he was holding what seemed to be a giant key. The Keyblade that was summoned shocked Riku and quickly caught his interest, the Kingdom Key, the same one used by the king and also the first Keyblade Sora acquired. This boy indeed does have a challenging destiny ahead of him, although that seems to come with the territory of being a Keyblade bearer. Naruto was looking at the weapon he had summoned with a funny look before a look of understanding cross ed his face. No wonder it's called a Keyblade, the thing's a giant freaking key. The Kingdom Key, huh? Riku commented out loud, catching Naruto's attention. Kingdom Key? I thought it was called the Keyblade, unless, does he mean there's different types of Keyblades? Naruto then decided to voice the question that crossed his mind. When you say Kingdom Key, do you mean there are other types of Keyblades? Riku was shocked at how the boy came to that outcome, even though it's correct with him just saying one thing. Yes, there are different types of Keyblades and some people can actually wield several different types, he commented before seeing a look of wonder cross the young blonde's face. You see that chain attached to the bottom of the Keyblade, and indeed did see a chain attached to the Keyblade, with the end being the 3 circles he saw in his Drea. Further fortifying the theory that the dream was his awakening. If you acquire more chains, you can swap them out to use different Keyblades, each one with different abilities. For instance, the Kingdom Key has an ability called Defender, meaning that whenever the wielder is stuck in pinch, your defense will rise and you will end up taking less damage. There are also some people who can wield multiple Keyblades at once, but the only person I know who can do it needs some outside assistance to do so, Riku stated, further enthralling Naruto into what is known as the Keyblade. Once Riku finished explaining, he then reached his hand out before him, then with a flash of light his own Keyblade appeared. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's see if you can use that thing and what other abilities you have, Riku stated before getting in a ready stance. Naruto soon followed him in his own ready stance that greatly shocked Riku. That stance is the same as Sora's. With both of them smirking, they charged at each other, Keyblades at the ready. Time skip 1 year. Outside Konoha, a figure dressed in a black cloak just like Riku's was standing a little ways away from Konoha while staring at the hidden village, with memories of the village coming to the surface of his mind. Konoha, it's been a while. Hey, exactly a year in fact. Then a portal of darkness appeared before the cloaked figure. Well, I guess it's time I go see how Gigi's doing. Oh, and Aruka too. Hey, can't wait to get to Ichiraku's. I haven't been able to find anything nearly as good. And with that, the figure stepped into the portal, with the portal disappearing once he was through. Hokage's office. Hiruzen was sitting in his chair with a bottle of sake next to him, drinking away the pain of what this day brought to the front of his mind, for today was the day his surrogate grandson had lost his Lee Fei. Damn it, Naruto, why'd you have to die? You have done nothing to deserve what you've been through, nor did you deserve the death you received. On the day of Naruto's death, Sarutobi had the ones responsible sent to Ibiki and Anko to get the information out of them of who the others were that hell Ped chased Naruto out of the village. Right when he was so close to exacting the justice that Naruto deserved, the damned civilian council stepped in and made impossible for him to find out the truth. Right when he was reaching for his cup, darkness rose from the floor, creating what looked like some type of portal. The Hokage was beyond shocked, for he, the one known as the professor, had never even heard nor seen of any jutsu that could accomplish such a feat, but he suddenly became on guard when a person stepped through the portal, with the portal closing behind them and disappearing. The person was covered in a pitch-black cloak that made it impossible for anything else to be seen, making it impossible to identify the figure. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" demanded the Hokage, wondering if he was under attack from some type of assassin. "Aw, come on Gigi, lighten up some," chuckled the figure. Hiruzen froze the moment those words were said, but more in particular one word affected him the most. "Gigi, only 2 people have ever called me that, and I know for a fact this isn't Konohamaru. That only leaves one other person, but he's dead. But then again, his body was never found. See, could it be Naruto?" questioned the old man, with hope flaring inside of him, just hoping that this person could be him. Hi Gigi, it's been a while," the figure said while he pulled off his hood. What Hiruzen saw was a face he thought he would never see again, for before him was a kid with long spiky blonde hair. His hair is the same as Riku's from Kingdom Hearts 2, just blonde, with 3 whisker marks on each cheek, but he did not see the ocean blue eyes that he knew so well for covering Nar. Yuto's eyes was a black blinder, again same blinder Riku has in Kingdom Hearts 2. In a split second Hiru's was up from his desk and hugging his surrogate grandson who he thought was long dead by now. Naruto was not surprised at the sudden contact, instead he just hugged him back while having a small smile on his face, for after a long year he was finally home. Time skip 5 minutes later. Once Hiruzen got most of his emotions back under control, he was now sitting behind his desk, not taking his eyes off of Naruto, as if he were to look away for even a second he would disappear. Naruto HH, how are you alive? The Hokage could only ask, for standing before him was someone who was stated dead a year ago. Well, a year ago when I was impaled in the back. Hiruzen winced at the mention of what happened a year ago, and was swept up by the river. I was brought back ashore in Found by a man named Riku. He then brought me to a place to recover while I was healing from the stab wound. Once I was finally healed, he asked me how I came to even have the wound, so after telling him what happened he offered to train me. Hiruzen could only raise an eyebrow at how this man named Riku trained Naruto. I wonder what Naruto was taught, he could only wonder. For the next 8 months Riku trained me until he had to leave. Then for the next 4 months I spent mastering my skills that I was taught while wandering Fire Country, Naruto explained. Hiruzen could only nod at the information that Naruto supplied him, but then Naruto asked him a question that he should have actually seen coming. So Gigi, can I go back to the academy to become a ninja again? Hiruzen had to think what to do, for in a week the genin exams would be upon the class that Naruto was original part of. He could either allow Naruto to take the genin exam or hold him back a year so he could make up for the lost time. He decided to ask Naruto if he thought he was ready to try such a task. Naruto, in the class you were previously attending, they are about to take the genin exams, so here are the choices I present you. You could either take the genin exams if you think you are ready, or be held back a year to make up for the lost time. I believe this mainly focuses though on whether you think the training this Riku person you mentioned has prepared you enough to attend the exam. Naruto was ecstatic at the mention of him being able to take the genin exams because quite frankly he far surpassed the academy level. At his current level of power. At his current level he could pass all the exams with probably top records without even trying. I'll try my hand at the genin exams, Gigi, was the obvious answer from Naruto, who would have probably taken the exam even if he wasn't at his current level. Though he could pass the exams with flying color at the moment, he wanted to try to stay out of the center of attention and try to keep how strong he is a secret for as long as possible, for who knows how people could react if they learned of how strong he currently was. Hiruzen smiled at the young blonde's answer, then grabbed a piece of paper before writing something down. Finished with whatever he was doing, he then folded it up and handed it over to Naruto. I think it's about time you go say hi to Iruka. I'm sure he will be beyond happy at knowing that you're still alive. While you see him, give him that note. It's basically a permission note to allow you to attend the genin exams even though you've been gone. With a nod from Naruto, who looked happy at the thought of visiting his surrogate older brother, Naruto pulled his hood back over his face before asking Hiruzen a question. Is it alright for me to just walk down the roads? I'm pretty sure many people will think they've seen a ghost. Hiruzen gained a thoughtful look, trying to figure a way out of this predicament before he remembered how Naruto first arrived. Hey Naruto, do you think you can get to Iruka though the same way you got here, which by the way you will have to explain to me sometime? With a sheepish look, Naruto then summoned forth another portal of darkness before walking thought it all the while the Hokage watched on in stunned silence. I seriously can't wait for when he explains to me how the hell he did that, he thought before turning his mind towards other matters like the announcement of Naruto's return. Hiruzen then called in his secretary. Once she was in, he ordered her to set a council meeting up including both the shinobi and civilian side. Although he wished he could leave the civilian side out of it, he knew that Naruto was still a civilian and not yet a ninja. Ninja Academy, after class. Iruka was currently sitting behind his desk either grading or filling out paperwork that was related to his class. In fact, though, he was actually doing more work than was necessary and could have left a while ago, but for now he was trying to drown himself in work to keep his mind from wondering to what happened a year ago. Iruka finished the paper he was currently filling out and put his pen down. Damn it, I would give anything just for one of his pranks, at least then he would still be around. Single quote. About to work on the next sheet of paper, he was instead in for a shock as a portal of darkness rose from the ground in front of his desk, leaving him wide-eyed with a surprised look on his face. Out of the portal stepped a figure clothed in a black cloak that covered him from head to toe, showing no skin at all, not even the face, which was currently covered by a hood. "Hey Iruka-sensei, long time no see," the figure said to him, further shocking him on how he was addressed. I'm sorry, but are you one of my students?" questioned the teacher, completely confused. If only he could see the person's face, then maybe he could figure out what's going on. Hope you haven't forgotten me. I mean, it's only been a year. Maybe I gotta give you some incentive to remember me by," chuckled the figure, making an all too familiar shiver run down his spine that he would only get after hearing the exploits of the master prankster of his class. Before his eyes, the figure pulled his hood back for Iruka to see the same boy who always slept through his class or played pranks around the village, only for him to chase after him. Naruto. No, it can't be. I must have worked harder than I thought and now I'm hallucinating, he tried to reason to himself, coming up with no other reason at seeing the supposedly dead blonde before his eyes. Sorry sensei, but me and my pranks aren't that easy to get rid of. Speaking of which, I gotta make up for lost time. The blonde finished with a menacing cackle, seemingly planning out many pranks to make up to lost time. Single quote. Naruto, how are you alive? Iruka said, but only came out as a whisper, still trying to regain his senses and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Naruto then told Iruka the same thing he told Hiruzen about being saved and trained. So why did you end up separating with that Riku person? Iruka questioned, wondering why Naruto's savior had to leave all of a sudden. Well, Riku had some unfinished business, I guess you could say, that he had been putting off for far too long. Naruto responded to his question. I'm pretty sure he said he had a friend who would soon need his help. Flashback: Riku's departure. Well, Naruto, I've taught you all I could teach you for the time being. Whatever you may learn is something you will have to learn through experience, Riku told Naruto. It had been 8 months since Riku had found Naruto and had begun his training with the Keyblade and several other things such as magic and basic knowledge of the Keyblade. As you know, I'm not from this world but actually traveling from world to world, Riku said. Like he said, he had already explained that he was actually from a world called Destiny Island and long been traveling from world to world. So now that I'm leaving, what will you do, Naruto? He questioned, truly wondering what his student will do after his departure. Well, for the moment I plan to travel and get some of that experience you said I'll need, then after some time of traveling I might head back to Konoha, was his response, getting a surprised reaction from Naruto's wanting to return to Konoha, even though a lot of the people seem to hate me there, and enough to try to kill me. There are still some people there who are important to me even now. Riku was extremely happy with Naruto's response. One of the main reasons was that hate for his village and what they had done to him hadn't controlled his life or his choices, and he still held on to what was precious to him. Well, that'll be one day of a homecoming, Riku said, already trying to imagine how the people of the village would react to the boy. No, wait, he could no longer be called a boy after all he's been through and the training and maturing he has gone through the past 8 months. He couldn't wait for them to react to this young man's newfound powers and abilities. Well, here Naruto, as a parting gift, Riku then proceeded to hand Naruto a charm. This allows you to summon a special kind of ally to fight alongside you in your time of need, or some other charms like this. One can be used as a mode of transportation. The being that this charm summons is 2 eidolons named the Shiva sisters. Naruto took the charm from Riku's outstretched hand and looked at it with wonder. To summon them, all you have to do is charge the charm with power and call upon them to aid you and they will appear. Riku explained to him how to use the strange charm. Goodbye, Naruto, and good luck with your traveling. Same to you, Riku-sensei, Naruto responded. With their goodbyes done, Riku then disappeared through a portal of darkness, leaving Naruto alone. Let's see how this works, Naruto mumbled to himself, looking at the charm. Following Riku's instructions, Naruto started to pump the charm with power, and with a cry of Shiva, a giant orb of water surrounded by strange markings appeared in front of him, and inside the orb were two metallic-looking women floating around a smaller orb. The two sisters burst out of the orb with the orb disappearing and proceeded to stand next to him. "Wow, gotta say that was awesome," Naruto said, looking like a child on Christmas morning. All of a sudden a small portal of darkness appeared next to Naruto. Once the portal disappeared, all that was left was a letter with something holding it down. Picking up the object and the letter, he then proceeded to read the letter. "Dear Naruto, sorry I almost forgot to give this to you. This here is another summoning charm, but unlike the one I gave you, this charm summons a being of unimaginable power. Only use this as a last resort when no other option is available. Even then use it with extreme caution, for the being that is summoned may be too much for you to control. Sincerely, Riku." Naruto decided to have a better look at the charm that is supposed to summon forth something of immense power. Carefully he put the charm in one of his many pouches alongside the charm of the Shiva sisters. "Well, I'll have to be careful if I ever use that," he mumbled to himself before turning his attention to the two sisters beside him with a sweat drop. "Now, how the heck is this supposed to be used as a mode of transportation?" As if to answer him, the two sisters moved in front of him, combining together to form a motorcycle. "Well, now that explains that. Now to test this out," he mumbled again to himself with stars in his eyes. Getting on, he then revved up the motorcycle before shooting off into the distance in unimaginable speeds he thought impossible with his destination unknown. End flashback. He still hasn't found himself in any situations where he needed to use the dangerous summon, but uses the Shiva sisters in the motorcycle form any chance he can as a form of fast and extremely fun mode of transportation, although he has fought with them by his side many times just to gain experience in teamwork with the two when fighting. "Oh yeah, Iruka-sensei, Gigi told me to give this to you," Naruto said while handing him the folded-up letter. Iruka's eyebrow shot up at seeing what the letter contained. "Naruto, are you sure you want to try for the genin exams? I mean, you've been gone for a year." "Hehe, don't worry sensei, I've been training for most of the time I've been gone. I'm pretty sure I can handle the genin exams," Naruto chucked at his sensei's worry. "Alright, if you're sure. Though please do attend the classes for the week before the exam, anything can help," Iruka cautioned him while getting a nod from Naruto. "Alright, see y'all later sensei, I have some other people I need to go see that I haven't seen in a while," Naruto said cheerfully before disappearing in another portal of darkness. "Damn it, I never got him to explain me what that is," Iruka cursed to himself at his forgetfulness. Memorial Stone. Kakashi was currently looking down upon the memorial stone which he would usually spend his time at since the death of his team and sensei, explaining his chronic lateness. With the death of Naruto, it seemed as if his habit had not lessened at all but increased, with him spending more and more of his time at the stone, but now his attention always seemed to be on the name of his sensei. "Sensei, I know I've already said this many times, but I've failed you," Kakashi stated as if talking to his deceased sensei. "I couldn't protect him, I just can't protect anyone, and now the damn civilian council and the two elders wants me to be a Junin sensei to the Uchiha." To Kakashi, this was the worst choice they could have made. To him, he could never succeed in protecting anyone, not his team, not his sensei, and not even his sensei's son. Behind Kakashi, a portal of darkness appeared and out stepped a figure completely clothed in a black cloak. "It wasn't your F.A. ult, you know." Kakashi was caught completely surprised by the unknown man. With his focus completely on the memorial stone, his guard was completely down. The shock though quickly turned to anger once his mind registered what the person had said though. "What would you know, I couldn't do anything to save them and now all of them are dead," he said with the last part barely hearable, as if to say to himself. "Just because they couldn't be saved doesn't make it your fault someone died. It just means all you have to do is make sure you save everyone else who is important to you so you don't have to face any more people you care about dying," the man said. "But how? How can I save anyone? I've already failed before. What makes you think I'll succeed the next time someone's life is in danger?" Kakashi demanded of the man, hoping the man actually has the answer. You get stronger. That's all you can do. Get stronger so no matter the situation you will be able to overcome it while saving all the people you care about, the man shared to Kakashi. Hey, get stronger, huh? Yeah, I guess that'll work. If only I was stronger before though. If only was stronger, then maybe I could have saved everyone, my team, my sensei, even Naruto. The past is the past, no matter how much you wish or desire, the past will never change, the man stated. Kakashi knew this to be true, because no matter how much he hoped, those he cared for were still dead. But if it helps, I can show you something that may decrease the pain you feel. And with that, the man removes his hood and shows his face like he did to the Hokage and Iruka. Long time no see, Kakashi. Quote. Again, Kakashi was shocked that he couldn't even find his voice anymore, for before him was one of the people he cared for who he thought was dead. The same blonde hair and whisker marks, but no longer could he see the blue eyes of his sensei's student, which were now covered by a black blinder like. How he uses his headband to cover his right eye. Finally his voice returned to him. Naruto, he said before he pulled his headband off of his eye to truly see him with his Sharingan, fearful that this may just be some kind of sick prank through the use of Henjar Genjutsu. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at his Kakashi's action, not because of the Sharingan, for he had already known about it along with his past, for the man had told him the story himself. Kakashi was one of the few people that actually cared for the boy and would stop by sometimes to see how he was doing, along with taking him out for ramen sometimes. Again, it was not the Sharingan itself that surprised him, it was how he revealed his Sharingan to him, but then understanding crossed his face, he decided to interrupt what he knew was coming though. I know what you may be thinking, the Genjutsu isn't to hide my identity though, he revealed to Kakashi, who indeed did see a Genjutsu surrounding the boy. Then explain to me, why do you have a Genjutsu on you? But he did know it was Naruto, for the person in front of him had the same chakra signature. Is the boy. It's actually the same Genjutsu that one of the Sannin uses on herself, if that helps you. Naruto responded, waiting for Kakashi to come up with a conclusion. Genjutsu one of the Sannin uses. What does he mean by that? Okay, think Kakashi, he said so that immediately cancels out both Jiraiya and Orochimaru, so that leaves Tsunade. Now Genjutsu that Tsunade uses, but that could only mean, why would he have to hide his age? Wait, before that he already looks the age he should be, something doesn't make sense. Naruto, why do you need to use Tsunade-sama's Genjutsu? You look like you're 12, which you are. Well, maybe a little on the short side, but you still look 12, Kakashi questioned, which Naruto already expected. Although a little annoyed on the short side comment. Here, gimme a sec, lemme remove the Genjutsu, and with that Naruto removed the Genjutsu, now looking to be around 15 to 16 years old. Kakashi was speechless, for someone who should have been 12 now stood before him looking to be about 15, maybe 16 years old. Naruto, what happened to you? Why do you look like that? Naruto then proceeded to tell Kakashi the same thing that he told both Iruka and the Hokage, that still doesn't explain why look 16 years old. Well, it's actually a side effect of a jutsu I was taught. When used, it matures the body at a faster rate until the body is basically at the top of its performance, so once I reach about 21 years old my body should stop aging due to the jutsu, Naruto responded to Kakashi's question. While Kakashi was thinking of any jutsu that he knows or has heard about that had such a side effect. Damn, I've never even heard of such a jutsu, and I've copied about 1,000 jutsus, were Kakashi's thoughts. Finally though, it crossed his mind that this indeed was Naruto, although he looked older than he should have been, but it was still Naruto and he was alive. Kakashi then turned his head back to the memorial stone and looked at his sensei's name, then he thought back to what Naruto said before he revealed his identity. Get stronger, huh? Yeah, I guess I'll do just that, and this time I'll let no one else die, Kakashi thought to himself, with his resolve now steeled. Oh, by the way, Kakashi, I'm going to take the Genin test in a week, Naruto cheerfully said to Kakashi, happy that he will soon be a ninja just like Kakashi. Wait, did he just say he will take the Genin test in a week? crossed Kakashi's mind. I'm pretty sure that arrogant Uchiha's taking the Genin test in a week. Maybe I can try to persuade the Hokage to get Naruto appointed to my team if he passes. Single quote. Well, I gotta go, Kakashi. I still need to go get some sleep, Naruto said. Kakashi then looked around him, surprised at how long he's been out standing before the stone and talking with Naruto, seeing as it was already pitch black outside. Alright, go get some sleep, Naruto. I've gotta go see the Hokage anyway. With that, Naruto started to walk back to where his apartment is. Wow, it's been a year since I've been back to that place. I bet the place is a mess. With Naruto gone, Kakashi soon shunshined to the Hokage's office. Academy classroom. 1 week has passed since Naruto's return to Konoha, and now Genin exam was finally upon them. Naruto had ended up taking Hinata out multiple dates throughout the week, getting to know the Hyuga heiress better. How it seems she still couldn't stop herself from blushing when she was around him. Naruto's thoughts then turned back to how the date from last night had ended. Flashback in front of Hyuga compound. Naruto and Hinata had just gotten back from their date for the day, which consisted of a small picnic on top of the Hokage monument, which they both greatly enjoyed, being able to relax and spend time together without Naruto having to face the whispers and the glares thrown his way. Now they were back to the Hyuga compound, with the pair once again trading their goodbyes, but this time Naruto decided to take a risk. Hinata turned around and was about to enter the gate of the compound when suddenly Naruto turned her around. Then, much to her shock and enjoyment, Naruto and her were currently kissing. For when Naruto turned her around, he immediately smashed his lips upon hers. This was both as a good luck for tomorrow and him trying to get something going on between them. Naruto finally pulled back, with his cheeks a little red, with a full-blown smile on his face. Good luck with the exams tomorrow, Hinata, and maybe once we both become Genin we can talk about how things are going to be between us, because well, I like you and I know you like me, he said with the smile still on his face. With that, Naruto turned around, heading back to his apartment, while Hinata had a full-blown crimson blush covering every inch of her face. Hinata then started to walk through the gate and through the estate till she reached her room as if she were on autopilot. When Hinata finally was in her room with her door closed, she immediately dived onto her bed while burying her head into her pillow with a squeal, thinking of what just happened minutes ago. And Naruto kissed me and he said he likes me. I'll definitely pass the exams, I won't disappoint Naruto, she thought to herself with determination. And then we will be. Hinata never got to finish the thought, for she had already fainted from the overheating of her full-blown blush that still didn't go away. Hey, at least she doesn't have to worry about not being able to fall asleep. End flashback. Hinata was determined to pass the exam and be together with the person she has had a crush on for years. She would not allow herself to fail no matter what. With Naruto though, he was stuck at an impasse, struck trying to figure out what to do. I could always go for perfect marks and show everyone I'm not the same Dobby that they used to know, but that might bring about unwanted attention. Then I could always try to pass with barely passing marks and keep up the Dobby appearance, but then no one would probably take me serious. I guess I can try to go for the middle lane and try to get average marks, making people take me serious while not gaining too much attention. With his decision, Naruto decided he would hold himself back and try to seem as if his skills were average. Alright class, today, as you all know and have been waiting for, the Genin exams. To start off with, there will be an exam on Genjutsu. You will be paired up and cast a Genjutsu on your partner while your partner tries to release himself from the Genjutsu, then you and your partner will switch roles. After the Genjutsu exam is the Taijutsu exam. For the first part of this exam will be target practice on practice dummies with kunais and shurikens. Afterwards will be a sparring practice between the same people you partnered up with for the Genjutsu. Finally, the exam for ninjutsu will consist of a Kawarimi Jutsu, a Henge Jutsu, and a Bunshin Jutsu. I was trying to make exams for all three of the different categories. Iruka then started to list off people as partners. Hinata was paired up with someone whose name he didn't even know. Shikamaru and Choji were paired up. Ino and Sakura were paired up, while Sakura kept saying how she was going to completely defeat Ino Pig, and then, Sasuke-kun, will be all hers wit. Ino just sweat dropping the whole time hoping that she wasn't that bad when she was in her fangirl state of mind. Finally Naruto's name was called up and he was partnered up with Sasuke Uchiha. Great, I got the emo jerk, Naruto whined to himself. Naruto was the first of the two to cast a genjutsu, which most people weren't expecting him to even be able to do since he has never once succeeded. To their amazement thought Naruto did cast a successful genjutsu that just made Naruto invisible to Sasuke, a basic level genjutsu. Kai, Sasuke said half-heartedly expecting the genjutsu to break before his elite self, but to his amazement nothing happened. Kai, Sasuke said one again, this time putting some effort into it and actually breaking the genjutsu this time. Sasuke let a smirk cross his face thinking it must have been a fluke. Hey, no matter what you'll always be dead last Dobi. Now Naruto liked to pride himself in being able to control his emotions a lot better than he could a year ago, but the moment the arrogant Uchiha opened his mouth Naruto got a sudden urge to just punch him straight in the face for some reason. He let himself be satisfied with a tick mark appearing above his eye though. Hey sensei, we shouldn't even bother with the Dobi trying to break out of my genjutsu, there's no way he'll be able to, Sasuke said with an arrogant smirk on his face. Iruka let out a sigh at the boy's arrogant attitude. Sasuke, everyone gets a chance. TCH, hey Dobi, just give up, there's no way a dead last like you could break out of the genjutsu cast by an elite Uchiha like myself, Sasuke said, and you could hear Sakura squealing in the background. Sasuke's so cool. Then she turned her attention to Naruto. Hey Baka, you should do as Sasuke-kun says, you're not worth Sasuke-kun's time. Naruto just watched on with a sweat drop. I think I'd like to give it a chance anyway, Naruto said, though even though the sweat drop was there his forehead kept getting more and more tick marks the more the arrogant brat kept talking. Gah, I just want to wipe that arrogant smirk straight of his face, he's so freaking annoying, was what Naruto was currently thinking. Then an idea came to him and with it a smirk crossed his face. Sasuke ended up casting a low-rank genjutsu that was about low genin rank. Wow, he's really underestimating me. With a smirk Naruto calmly stated, Kai, and Sasuke's genjutsu instantly broke apart with Naruto looking as if he wasn't even struggling, which in fact he wasn't. Sasuke's smirk was instantly wiped off his face once his genjutsu was released. Wait, let me try that again, that must have been a fluke. Yeah. There's no way the Baka could have broke Sasuke-kun's genjutsu, Sakura shrieked in the background. Iruka's sweat dropped while he was about to state that there were no second chances, but Naruto interrupted him before he could say anything. Go ahead Iruka-sensei, let him try again so I can prove to him that it wasn't a fluke. Quote. The smirk was instantly back on Sasuke's face once Naruto said that. Hey, looks like the Dobi knows how to show respect to his betters, he said, completely ignoring how Naruto said he was going to prove that it wasn't a fluke. Naruto's eye started to twitch at the Uchiha's comments, so he thinks he's my better, huh? How about I make this one more flashy and humiliating for him then, he thought with the smirk returning to his face. Sasuke then cast another genjutsu, this time one between mid and high genin rank. Well, at least he's taking me serious this time. Naruto's smirk then grew right as he shouted, Kai, as he pumped massive amount of chakra into the release. The genjutsu was released in a shockwave of blue chakra as Sasuke was pushed off his feet and landing right on his backside, while Naruto was looking down upon him with the smirk still on his face. Sasuke was clenching his fists while glaring up at the Dobi. He thought of charging at the Dobi humiliating him, but he decided that he would just humiliate him in the taijutsu sparring exam. Baka, what did you do to Sasuke-kun? Sakura shrieked louder than before, making the people around her hold their ears in pain. You must have cheated, there's no way you could have beaten Sasuke-kun. Quote. Naruto's eye was again twitching. Gah, how the hell did I ever find that Banshee attractive? Now I just want to go back in time and smack some sense into the younger me, she's so freaking annoying. How is it that both the emo and the banshee seem to annoy me so much, he thought to himself, questioning his sanity when he was younger. He then thought of a way to shut the banshee up, so with a smirk on his face he released another shockwave of chakra, this time blowing her off her feet. The people around her were instantly in hysterics at seeing her shocked face. Naruto then headed over and stood beside Hinata, who had a hand over her mouth trying to stop the laughter that was trying to break through. He learned that she had also been able to break through her opponent's genjutsu easily while her opponent struggled to break through hers. Once Iruka was successfully able to control the laughter that was trying to overcome him, he saw that everyone else was done. Okay class, the genjutsu part of the exam is over, now it's time for the target practice exam. Follow me outside to the training ground. Once everyone was at the training ground, they started to go one after the other in alphabetical order, taking turns at the target practice. Sasuke ended up getting a 10 out of 10, to which he let a smirk spread across his face, to which he targeted to a certain blonde-haired boy. With a roll of his eyes, Naruto stepped up to take his turn, getting a 7 out of 10, average. Now it was time for the next part of the taijutsu exam, the sparring match. Again, people were paired up the same way as before with the genjutsu, with Naruto once again facing the arrogant Uchiha who still had a smirk on his face from the target practice. Hey, like I said once, Adobe always Adobe, he said again, making a tick appear above Naruto's eyebrow. What is his problem? I mean, I completely humiliated him in the genjutsu exam, so why does he keep thinking he's so freaking superior to me? Quote. The rest of the students had not yet begun their own spars, as all eyes were set on the two boys about to face off. Normally Iruka would have shouted at the students to stop watching them and to get on with their own matches, but for the moment Iruka's attention, like everyone else's, was focused only on the two boys that were about to face off. I'll make you pay for earlier. A dead last like you will never be better than an elite like me. The Uchiha kept ranting, trying to get it through the blonde's head that he would always be nothing when compared to him. Okay, seriously, is he ever going to shut up, or is planning to talk me into submission? Although that does sound nice if it at least makes him shut up, Naruto thought in annoyance at the arrogant boy's never-ending rant of how he's king of the world or something like that. Naruto tried to tune him out, but then he heard something that instantly caught his attention. Hey, I've seen you hanging out with that Hyuga girl, who also happens to be an elite unlike you. Maybe I should take her from you and show her how it is to be with a real elite as my mistress for when I rebuild my clan, Sasuke said with a smirk on his face. Everyone could not believe what the Uchiha had just said, well, except for Sakura, who said, yeah, Sasuke-kun, that girl can be our little slave. Snap! Once everyone heard the snap, all eyes were moved away from the Uchiha to Naruto, only to find he spot he was once at empty, all except one person who kept her eyes on her. Sasuke-kun, kya, Naruto baka, let go of Sasuke right now. All eyes then went back to where Sasuke was, to see Naruto standing next to Sasuke with his left foot forward and his right hand holding Sasuke's face. You've gone too far this time, Naruto said in a voice that sent shivers down everyone's spines. With a heave, Naruto then slammed the back of Sasuke's head into the ground, instantly knocking him out cold. Everyone watched this happen with wide eyes and jaws dropped, as the supposedly dead last had instantly defeated the elite Uchiha in just one move with little to no effort. What the hell was with that speed? That's at least low-mid Chunin level speed, thought a slack-jawed Iruka, not believing his eyes. Naruto, what kind of training did you go through? He then finally noticed how everyone else has still not started their match. When he was about to yell at everyone to stop gawking and start their matches, he was interrupted by a shriek that should not have been humanly possible. Naruto baka, what do you think you're doing to Sasuke? He's an elite Uchiha, you have no right to harm your betters. You better bow down and beg for his forgiveness, you dead last, the pink banshee shrieked to the boy who looked at her in boredom. You done yet? He questioned. With another shriek, Sakura then charged straight at Naruto, making him lift an eyebrow at her action. Does she seriously think she can hurt me? Sakura swung at Naruto only for him to disappear. With a quick chop to the back of her neck, Naruto ended up knocking her unconscious, not even bothering to try to catch her. He then looked towards Ino, who she was supposed to spar with. Sorry Ino, looks like I left you without a sparring partner. With a blush, Ino then spoke back to Naruto, and no, it's fine, she charged at you, so it's not your fault anyway. Naruto smiled at her response, getting another blush from her. Looks like she's changed for the better since I've been gone. If it's okay with you and Iruka-sensei, I could fill in as your partner if you want me to, he questioned while glancing at Iruka from the corner of his eye. If it's okay with Ino, then I will allow it, was all he said. Naruto then refocused his sight back on Ino, who gave a nod of agreement. Once the spar was done, with Naruto really just dodging her attacks while commenting on hole in her guard, Iruka then spoke up, alright, the taijutsu part of the exam is over now, all that's left is the ninjutsu part, so line up and when it's your turn you will perform the kawarimi, henge, and bunshin jutsu in that order. Nice job Ino, with a little refinement you would be a fine kunoichi, Naruto said with a kind smile on his face before heading over to the line, not noticing the blush that had spread on her face. Why am I blushing so much? I mean, it's Naruto, although it does feel nice being acknowledged for the hard work I put into my skills, she thought to herself. When she had gotten over fangirl mentality, Ino had actually started to work harder on her ninja skills, trying to become a kunoichi of Konoha instead of some mindless follower. This in turn had made her father proud at his daughter's resolve, especially when she came to him asking for help in her training and taking her clan jutsu training more seriously, though that he approved of the most was that she was no longer going on her diet, and had stopped starving herself. The students were all lined up with Naruto near the end, for the line had been reorganized into alphabetical order just like with the target practice exam. Sasuke and Sakura had been woken up through the use of smelling salts that were always carried around during the exams in case someone was knocked unconscious like they had. The two were currently glaring at the blonde boy who had made them unconscious in the first place, but fortunately for the blonde, neither of them had said anything yet and just stuck to glaring. After Sasuke's turn, in which he had gotten another high score, although this time it seemed instead of the well-known smirk that would usually follow, he was still glaring at the blonde whose turn was now up. Naruto decided he had stuck out too much so far and decided to go back to his average score plan. So he performed both an average Kawamire and henge, in which he had to transform into Iruka-sensei, and now it was time for the bunshin. Just as he had gathered the chakra and was about to perform an average bunshin, a feeling came across him, one that he was quite familiar with. The feeling was telling him to fail the bunshin. Now usually no normal person would follow such a feeling. For Naruto, though, he had been instructed to always follow the feeling by Riku-sensei if the feeling ever came about, which he has been whenever he's had the feeling before. Flashback. Naruto, I will now tell you one of the most important abilities that all Keyblade bearers end up with, Riku stated. Catching Naruto's attention at the thought of learning a new skill. All Keyblade wielders end up with what you could call a sixth sense, you could call it a reaction. The reaction is basically a highly tuned form of instinct. The reaction is when a person gets a strong feeling of what they should do. Next, Riku stated, seeing Naruto's confused face, he decided to bring up an example. Naruto, have you noticed how that even though you've never wielded a sword before, you are able to fight like that of a master swordsman? Getting a nod, he continued, that is basically a lesser form of the reaction sense. What is basically happening is that your body is instantly reacting to the situation you are in and inputs information into your body what to do. For sword battle, it tells your body how to swing and when to block. For example, the combos you pull off is a chain of reactions telling your body how to combine a chain of attacks to damage your opponent. There are times where the feeling may have nothing to do with battle though. Say if you are presented two paths, the reaction sense may instruct to you which path you would need to go, Riku explained, hoping he got the full importance across to him. I think I understand. So what you mean in this reaction is basically your instinct telling you what to do in any given situation that may lead to a favorable outcome, Naruto said, trying to summarize what his sensei had told him. Getting a nod from Riku, who was happy that the blonde had truly understood how important the reaction can be. Remember, Naruto, if you ever feel a reaction coming, follow it, do not question it, for it will always save you and bring you to a favorable outcome. Quote. End flashback. So Naruto, putting full faith into the reaction, pumped up too much chakra into the Bunshin jutsu, and with a poof, a failure of a Bunshin appeared, though a puff of smoke looking like some boneless blob. Hehe, sorry sensei. Seems like the Bunshin jutsu is still too much for me, Naruto said with a sheepish look while rubbing his hand on the back of his head. Iruka let out a sigh. Damn, and he was doing so well too, but the ninjutsu exam is something you must pass unlike the other two. Iruka looked at the blonde and with a solemn expression he said, I'm sorry Naruto, but if you can't perform a successful Bunshin jutsu then I'm going to have to fail you. Hehe, it's okay Iruka-sensei. I guess it was too soon for me to try the genin exam, I mean I have been gone for a year now, Naruto said before going with the rest of the group back to the classroom. Iruka then announced that everyone but Naruto had passed and that they should come back next week for team assigning. Once he was done, he dismissed the class with Naruto being the first one to leave, giving no time for Hinata to try to comfort her crush. I hope Naruto's going to be alright, she thought to herself with a worried expression. Outside the classroom on the swing, where he was after he failed in the canon. Naruto was currently sitting on the swing outside of the classroom, which was always his little quiet spot to where he see old think without being bothered. He was currently mulling over the reaction he had in class while ignoring the blatant stares and whispers being directed towards him by the parents of the students that did pass. Now I just have to wait and see why the reaction wanted me to purposely fail, Naruto thought to himself, not even worried about him failing, placing full trust into the reaction. As if to answer his question, the other Chunin that was assisting Iruka-sensei came up to Naruto. Naruto, he called, catching the boy's attention. Mizuki-sensei, Naruto said with a raised eyebrow. Hey Naruto, I know that Iruka may have failed you, but what if I told you a little secret about how you could pass? Mizuki said, inwardly smirking as he set his plan to motion. Why would you tell me the secret? Naruto questioned, trying to see where this may be leading. Well, since you were doing so well in all the other exams and only failed the Bunshin exam, I believe you deserve another chance, was the answer he received. TCH, yeah right, like he would think I deserved another chance. He looks at me just like all the other villagers, although he does hide it better than them, were his thoughts, trying to process what Mizuki may be planning. Mizuki handed Naruto a slip of paper. All you have to do is successfully take the forbidden scroll to this location and learn at least one jutsu from it, and then you pass, Mizuki said before turning and leaving with a smirk now plastered on his face, thinking of how gullible the demon brat is. What he didn't see is a smirk on Naruto's own face as Mizuki left with only one word running through his thoughts.